At the end of May, we spent a week in Tossa De Mar, which is about 50 miles north of Barcelona. We stayed at Apart Hotel GHT Tossa Park, which is a 10-minute walk away from the seafront. We found Tossa De Mar to be perfect for what we wanted. Being a middle-aged couple, travelling without children, looking for a nice place to relax. Going at the end of May meant we were also visiting outside of the main holiday season. While there were plenty of people visiting like us, the beaches and restaurants weren't packed out with holidaygoers. I can imagine during peak holiday season it may become a bit overcrowded. Travelling from Tossa De Mar to other locations can be tricky and time consuming, as a train stops at Blanes. So you need to get a bus to Blanes if you want to travel to Barcelona, for instance. Plus tickets sell out, so book in advance to avoid disappointment. Being from the Sheffield area in England, Tossa De Mar was very different to what we were used to. The area itself has a huge amount of character, with its medieval walls and distinctly Spanish streets. We found a lot of middle-aged and older people didn't speak a great deal of English. However, with our basic Spanish abilities, we managed to communicate. Tossa De Mar has several beaches which have a little bit of something for everyone. We tended to stick to Platja Mar Menuda, as it seemed a little quieter than the main beach Platja Gran. However, both of these beaches were really clean, as was the sea, which would be ideal for those interested in snorkeling due to the abundance of fish and how clear it was. On Platja Mar Menuda there was also kayaks and bodyboards available to hire, enabling you to explore the rocky shoreline behind. Cala Escudala on the other side of the bay didn't seem quite as clean as the other beaches. Some rubbish did seem to collect there, which was a real shame, but probably just a result of the currents. The town area itself is lovely and definitely worth exploring both in the day and at night, with local bars, restaurants and shops in both the new part of town and the old town, which has tons of appeal. There's a fantastic ice cream shop called Blau Blanc, which opens at 11 AM and also serves a great coffee, including a mocha, which seemed really hard to come by during our stay. With plenty of other places selling gifts, clothing, jewellery, homeware and much more, a lot of the shops seem like independent shops selling high quality stock at reasonable prices, which is great. We were really pleased to say that we didn't see many places selling cheap tap, but we'll touch on that later. One of the biggest draws to Tossa De Mar are the medieval walls and turrets, which were first built in the 12th century to protect locals from Barbary pirates from the north of Africa. These would ransack the area and kidnap locals to be sold into slavery. These are charming and give the area real character, especially as you can walk them, as many generations of Catalonians would have for hundreds of years, which really gives you a sense of history and a different perspective on life. Tossa De Mar's history goes back even further than that though, with a Roman ruins that is free to explore. One evening we had a walk around and we were the only ones there, apart from the odd lizard or two, which was really nice to be able to relax and take our time. It was also nice to see how they were protecting the mosaics from the elements in order to preserve them for future generations to see. Not far from here is Torre de Moras, which is another tower up quite a steep hill, so make sure you're wearing comfortable footwear if you attempt it. The views from the top of the hill are impressive, and if you're feeling really adventurous, there is a route from here to more attractive coves and beaches in the southerly part of Tossa De Mar, which we didn't have time to explore unfortunately. We did get a chance to explore the churches though, which are worth a trip. On the Wednesday evening, while shopping, one of the shop owners explained to us that it was Corpus Christi the next day, and that it would be worth seeing. The following morning, while we walked through the streets, there were groups of young people creating designs on the pavements and then filling these with different coloured petals and flowers. It was really interesting to see, especially as we returned that evening to see the wide variety of designs completely finished. We also caught the procession, which went from the Church of Saint Vincent to the Chapel of Our Lady of Socorro. must admit I was a bit surprised to see people walking over the designs and then picking the petals up and throwing them at each other. It was a really nice tradition to have witnessed and gave us an insight into the traditions and customs of local people. Plus, it looked really good fun. On Thursday, there's a local market which runs along Rambla por Casals. There's lots of different stalls selling fruit, veg, clothing, household items and much more. However, I wasn't too impressed with the market stall owners, some of which threw a good amount of rubbish into the Riera de Tossa, which is the river that runs adjacent to the road. I think if I was a local, I'd be having words with them about that. Being the sort of people that like to walk and explore, we embarked on a mission to explore the nearby coves north of Tossa De Mar. The walk is quite steep at times and the tracks are uneven in places, so you need to wear appropriate footwear. The view of Tossa De Mar from the hill is fantastic, with space to park by the road if you want the views without the walk. The first cove you'll come to is Cala Bona, which to be honest isn't anything to shout about. Like Cala Escodala, debris in the sea seem to collect there. There's also a lorry crash site just away from the seafront in the bushes. I hope nobody was hurt, it looked like quite a drop from the road. A short walk further around the coast is Cala Pola, which was breathtaking. It felt like we'd arrived in a Caribbean island of some sort. It was very quiet with a dozen people there at most. The sea was calm and warm, perfect for a swim, and it was very peaceful. If you're staying at Tossa De Mar, it would be criminal not to visit this location and spend a few hours there. Just be warned that it does seem like a place where nudists like to visit. While we were there, a couple of visitors stripped off completely naked. We weren't too bothered about this, but some people may be. Further around the coast is Cala de Hivarola, which again was a sensational location, a bit busier and larger than Cala Pola, but again well worth the walk. While contemplating the 5+K walk back to Tossa, a ship pulled in on the right hand side of the bay. We found out that this is an hourly taxi service from Platja Gran in Tossa De Mar to Cala Hivarola, which saved us a walk home and enabled us to do a bit more swimming in the sea. So if you don't want to do the walk or are unable to, this gives you the opportunity to visit a charming cove away from most tourists. During the stay, we did take a trip to Barcelona, which we have visited a couple of times before. On this occasion, we visited Plaza de Toros, which used to be a bullfighting arena. Bullfighting was outlawed in Catalonia in 2012, some 25 years after its last bullfight. It opened as a shopping centre in 2011, with a good range of shops arranged in an interesting layout, covering many levels with a cinema right at the top, along with restaurants and a walkway which gives you a 360-degree view of the city, which really helps give you a perspective of the area and in our instance the places we've visited previously. We also visited the new camp, a location away from most of the other tourist hotspots. As I knew my wife wouldn't be too interested, we visited other locations the first couple of times we visited Barcelona. However, this time I was determined to visit. That being said, I should have done my research, as it was closed off for construction work. What an idiot. The bar, restaurant, club shop, arena and museum were all still open, so we stopped off at the bar for a pizza, some potato bravas and a dame limon. It may have been because we were hungry and had done some walking, but the food was fantastic and the staff were great, so if you get a chance, pop in for a bite. We were also quite lucky to be trekked to a bloom of the jacaranda trees, which we'd not seen previously on our visits. Indeed, they were planted around the bar area, which was really nice. Although it wasn't until I did a bit of googling that I found out that these attractive trees are poisonous, causing vomiting, diarrhea, dilated pupils, and in extreme cases, coma and death. Possibly not the best choice of tree to adorn your eatery, but what would I know? As we'd not had chance to the other times we visited, we made sure we took a ride on the cable car, which was well worth the experience. The price was reasonable, the views were fantastic, and the experience took us a little bit out of our comfort zone, but we would definitely recommend it if you get a chance to try it. The city of Girona is much closer to Tossa De Mar than Barcelona, being only 25 miles away. The walls of the city are great, stretching just under 2 miles, starting between Plaça de Catalunya and Jardins de les Pedreres. Again, we really enjoyed exploring these, considering their purpose and imagining what it must have been like for soldiers in years gone by patrolling the walls in order to protect the city from invaders. Towards the end of the route, the walls meet Jardins dels Alemanes and Murallas de Girona, which are both worth exploring too. We spotted this cheeky devil sunning itself along the steps. Eventually, following this route, you'll come to Catedral de Santa Maria, which was featured in the TV show Game of Thrones. The whole area is picturesque, and if you follow Carrer de la Ballesteres towards the city centre, there are a number of shops and eateries that are worth visiting, reminiscent of the old town in Tossa De Mar. Girona's old town is full of charm and lots of shops to explore, as well as the Eiffel Bridge, built by Gustave Eiffel, the same person that was responsible for the Eiffel Tower in Paris. While exploring the variety of bridges that cross Rio Aranya, we saw a couple of nutria rodents eating on the river foliage, so keep your eyes peeled for these. They look like a cross between a rat and a beaver. On the way back to Tossa, we decided to catch the bus to Tossa De Mar, and then from there to Tossa there was a bit of a wait. So we decided to explore Tossa De Mar, as we considered stopping there when we were looking for accommodation. We were so glad that we didn't. There are picturesque parts, especially around Calabans, but the vibe was totally different to Tossa. It was full of groups of rowdy young people, fast food places, even on the beachfront, bearing in mind that there are none in Tossa De Mar, plus lots and lots of tacky shops selling tat, for instance white t-shirts that say "I love big boobs" or "I love MILFs." No wonder some of the locals are sick and tired of tourism in this part of Spain. I didn't spot one tacky t-shirt for sale in Tossa. It was a totally different atmosphere. There was also much more litter on the streets, on the beaches, in the rocks, in the sea, whereas Tossa was clean and tidy. In fact, we watched the sunrise one morning and there were numerous workers around, already picking up the few bits of litter that had been left from the night before. So if you're into fast food, nightclubs, drinking and partying, Tossa De Mar is the place for you. If you want a quiet romantic trip with your partner, I would steer well clear and go to Tossa De Mar. While on holiday, we called in at a few places to eat, all of which were nice. However, we picked up a portion of potato bravas from Café d'Imbiel, which is next to the car park by the beach. These were outstanding. In terms of the hotel, Apart Hotel GHT Tossa Park, it was a little rough around the edges in places, and our first impressions weren't great when we saw the beds. We booked a double room with a double bed, which is not what we got. It was a single sofa bed and another that pulled out from underneath to make a double bed. This sat around 6 to 8 inches lower than the first, which means if you want to cuddle up to your partner, you've got to share a single bed. I suffer from scoliosis and the pull-out bed was very spongy and not very stable at all, so I wasn't looking forward to laying on it. Although it was actually quite comfortable, a little bit like a hammock. I do think the hotel should treat their customers with a bit more respect, and if a customer books a double room, it should come with a double bed. The rest of the room was fine. We had a small kitchen area, although no kettle or oven, just a hob and microwave, which only goes so far. The balcony was also quite nice to sit on in an evening, with a can of Dan Limon or two. The sound insulation was a bit lacking though, so noise from the adjoining rooms could be a bit annoying. Having the patio doors was really good though, as it meant we could get a good amount of air circulating on an evening, which basically meant we never used the aircon, although you might not get away with that in the height of summer. The bar area downstairs wasn't open at this time of year. However, the indoor and outdoor pools were, along with a pool table, foosball table and other bits and bobs, which was nice. Not far from our hotel is a children's play area called Estanque de Tortugas, where if you're lucky you might get a glimpse of the turtles that live there. Overall, we had a fantastic week in Tossa De Mar. I love the Catalonian architecture, culture and warmth of the people we met. We even appreciated Tossa's own way of making us English people feel at home, which was to chuck it down for 30 minutes one evening, just like being back at home in Yorkshire. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe and watch my other videos.